If you have a question for Dr. Donna, please do leave it on my page and I will be happy to answer the question for you. Everybody, welcome to another episode of Talking with Dr. Donna. I'm your host, Dr. Donna White Carey, and I thank you for keeping your appointment. As you know, we have an appointment together every Thursday at 6:30 p.m. You have an appointment with the doctor. So thank you for being here tonight. As you know, my YouTube channel, if you don't have a subscription yet, you got to get in the know. Make sure you go over to my YouTube channel if you're watching it on some other channel, and make sure you hit subscribe. I really appreciate it. And then hit that bell right next to subscribe so that you know whenever I go live. As you know, our goal here on Talking with Dr. Donna is to revolutionize the way we view health. When we focus in on our 4 pillars of health, our emotional mental health pillar, our spiritual health pillar, our physical health pillar, and our environmental health pillar, I firmly believe that if we focus in on those 4 pillars of health, we can work together to end the cycle of premature death in the Black community. So join me, subscribe, and become a part of the Generational Health Network. Now, as you know, it's Black History Month, so happy Black History Month. I always say I'm Black 365, but I'm really Black during Black History Month. And I want to highlight tonight our Black Boy Joy. We're keeping with our series that we have been doing on Black Boy Joy. The man that I am honoring and recognizing tonight for Black History Month is the first African-American physician in the United States, Dr. James McCune Smith. James McCune Smith, the first Black physician in the United States. Grew up from a mother who bought her freedom, was super smart, graduated from college early at like the age of 15. Graduated from high school at the age of 15 and then applied in New York to college. Well, nobody would accept him. So some supporters put their money together and sent him to the University of Glasgow in Scotland. There in Scotland, he completed his bachelor's degree, his master's degree, and his medical degree in 5 years. Y'all, I finished college in 5 years, and he got all 3 degrees in 5 years. Black boy joy right there, Black boy magic. After finishing medical school, he moved to Paris to complete his residency and then moved back to the United States to start practicing medicine. He became the first owner of a Black-owned pharmacy in the United States, and then he put that pharmacy to good use. He held meetings in the back of the pharmacy for a party, organization, I should call it, that he actually co-founded with Frederick Douglass. And that was called the Radical Abolitionist Party. And together, them, with along of some other supporters, worked to help to abolish slavery. So Dr. James McCune Smith, we honor you tonight. We appreciate your legacy. I appreciate your legacy. And I thank you for not only demonstrating entrepreneurship, but understanding that you can put all of your education to good use to help serve your entire community. So let's clap it up for Dr. James McCune Smith, our highlight for Black History Month. All right. Let's get into Dr. Donna's Need to Know. This is what you need to know this week. Number 1. You need to know about the vaccines for the 6-month-olds to 4-year-olds. Now, you probably heard in the news that they were coming soon, and February 15th was supposed to be the day that it was going to be voted on by the FDA. Well, the drug company decided that they wanted to postpone it and delay that vote. And the reason is because they had studied a 2-dose regimen of the vaccine. And in those studies, they realized, well, maybe 2 doses isn't really enough. Maybe we should start out with 3 doses versus how we're doing now, where we started with 2 doses and then 5 to 6 months later, we got a booster. They were thinking, well, maybe we should just start out with that 3-dose regimen in our younger children. And so because of that, they pulled their application and said, let's go back to the drawing board. Let's look and see and analyze the data, and let's see if a 2-dose regimen is better or if the 3-dose regimen is better. So that means it's coming. It's still coming. It's just now they want to make sure that which regimen is the right regimen, and to make sure that it is safe if they decide to do that 3-dose regimen from the beginning. So more to come, but you do need to know that it is coming. As you may already know, we do have vaccines available for ages 5 and up, right? 5-year-olds all the way up to adults can get a vaccine. And boosters are available for anyone who's age 12 and above. So right now, that's still our best bet, is to be vaccinated and to be boosted. And I actually say it's really not just looking at vaccination, but whether or not you're protected. That's what that booster shot will do, is to help bring back up your immune system and your antibody response should you see the actual coronavirus virus infecting into your body. So that's number one, need to know that vaccines are coming for ages 6 months to 4 years. And that's a Pfizer vaccine. Moderna, where you at? I'm waiting for you. Come on. All right, your second need to know is about COVID variants. Are there still variants? Yes, unfortunately, we are still going to see variants, and we're going to continue to see variants for as long as we have a high percentage of people who have not either been vaccinated or their immune system from their first vaccinations is so low that they're not really as protected. And so we're still going to see variants. Again, we went through this in a couple of other episodes about variants of concern. And this new subvariant of Omicron, the BA.2 variant, is out there. But one good thing is that we're seeing it really more globally than we are seeing it locally. So in other countries, it seems to be becoming a predominant variant. But here in the United States, the predominant variant is still the primary Omicron. And then we still are seeing some cases of the Delta variant. So yes, we definitely want you to understand we're still going to see strains from coronavirus. And speaking of what's happening with coronavirus, I want you all to pay attention to what I'm about to say. In the United States, there were 141,000 cases that occurred just yesterday. That's over 141,000 people who tested positive for coronavirus. In total in the United States, we have more than 78 million people who have tested positive for coronavirus. Now, in terms of deaths, just yesterday, 3,306 people lost their lives from this virus. And across the United States, 927,000 people have died from this virus. We are now at this point where every minute of the day, more than 2 people are dying from this virus. I want to just let you hear that and let that sink in. Every minute, more than 2 people are dying from this virus. But there is a whole spectrum. There is a mild disease all the way up through death. And so many of us talk and focus in on deaths, which of course is super important. But what I want to talk about is what I'm not hearing anybody else talk about, is that you might get coronavirus and recover. And what does that recovery process look like? What we don't know, and we're probably not collecting any data because I've never seen it. What we don't know are the number of people who are disabled because they caught coronavirus, didn't die, recovered, but now have chronic illness, have chronic disease, have multiple issues, medical issues, and we're not talking about that. We're not talking about the amount of disability that occurs if you get coronavirus. You might have a mild case and you recover. But we know that there is long COVID, right? We've talked about long COVID, those symptoms that continue on past the time that you recover from the actual acute illness. We know that coronavirus increases the risk of developing diabetes. So you've recovered from COVID, but now you're a diabetic. That's from adults, and we're also seeing that in our children. What about problems with the nervous system? We're seeing for people who recover from coronavirus that they have what's called brain fog. They confused, they can't quite think straight as much. Their memory is gone. That's brain fog. Number of people are, after getting over the virus, are developing dizziness and continued headaches and being tired months after they've recovered from coronavirus. We're also seeing folks with kidney damage and people with heart problems. One study showed that more than 60% of people who recovered from coronavirus had swelling and inflammation of their hearts. And we know that in our young teens and our young adults, there's an increased risk of heart swelling, or what you've probably have heard in the news called myocarditis and pericarditis. Both increase risk from getting coronavirus. Not dying, but you're disabled from that infection. And then we have people who are having mental health issues after recovery from coronavirus, having post-traumatic stress syndrome from months or weeks or days in the intensive care unit. They cheated death, they didn't die, but they are having significant disability. And so as you're thinking about whether or not you believe in this virus and whether or not you want to wear a mask and whether it's a big deal that you test positive for coronavirus, I want you to think about that there is a spectrum between being healthy and dying. And in between there are millions of people who didn't die but have significant disability from this virus. It's really important. You need to know and you need to understand that this virus is nothing to play with, okay? All right. The third thing that we need to know, we're going to talk about masking. And I know that in many, many areas of the country, here where I am in Alameda County, the mask mandate is being dropped. Going indoors, you no longer have to wear a mask. Well, I'm hoping that what I just told you about the possibilities of disability after getting the virus, that will make you think twice about removing your mask when you're indoors. I personally am going to continue to wear my mask. Indoors, outdoors, whenever I'm in crowded places, I'm going to continue to wear my mask. Again, I did an episode on what type of mask to wear and how to wear a mask that fits well. So look on my channel and look at that masking video. A K95 or an N95 is the best type of mask to help protect you from getting coronavirus. And even if somebody that's with you or you're in a place where they're not wearing a mask, you wearing the right type of mask could protect you and help prevent you from getting this disease. So those are Dr. Donna's need to know for this week. As you know, we're going to talk about COVID. I'm going to give you some COVID updates. COVID updates, let's look at our slides. Number one, let's look at our cases. As I want you to see that our cases, as I said earlier, are increasing, right? But they're slowly dropping from this big surge that we had last month. But I want you to note the increase in the number of cases for those who are less than 18 years old. Our children are now accounting for about 25% of all new cases. So we got to protect our kids. We've got to protect our kids. I want you to also pay attention to our deaths. Now, I talked to you about this spectrum and continuum of being well to death and the disability that occurs in between. But I also want you to note that people are dying. Like I said, every minute, more than 2 people are dying from this disease. And as you can see from this slide, the racial group that is most impacted from those deaths, I'll give you one guess. I'm going to wait here for 10 seconds. Nope, you don't need that long, right? Because it is the Black community. Blacks, African Americans, Negroes, whatever you want to call yourselves, y'all, we are the ones who are dying from this disease. We must take it seriously. And then the final slide is looking at the number of cases by whether or not you are vaccinated and protected. And I want you to note that that yellow graph is the curve of those who are unvaccinated. And as you can see, it's higher than any of the other lines. That means if you're unvaccinated, you have a higher risk of getting coronavirus. And again, you may not die, but what is that possibility of that disability that can occur if you get infected? That blue line is the line of those who are vaccinated. And you can see it's significantly lower than if you were unvaccinated. And I would say that if you're vaccinated and boosted in a relatively good period of time, that it also decreases your risk of contracting coronavirus. We're not out of the woods yet, folks. We're not out of the woods. I really want you to know that. And I want you to understand that no matter what's happening in terms of policies, in terms of what our public health departments are saying, because we have to think that a lot of it is driven by economics and the pressure that businesses and others are putting on our officials. And so I want you to think about that. For you personally, what are you going to do to protect your health? Because ultimately it comes down to the decisions that you make individually. All right, so please be safe and know that Dr. Donna is here for you. I am really praying for you, and I'm hoping that you're going to take what I'm saying to heart and spread that to other folks that might be around you. All right, as you know, one of my 4 pillars is physical health. And so part of our physical health is our diet. And we have been focusing in on various foods of the month. And our food of the month this month is beans, 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 more beans. Helps with your heart. So we've had lots of beans. Want to make sure that you know that there's lots of recipes. We have a slide here with different recipes for how you can cook and create your beans and be creative with them. There's also, I want to thank you for people who are posting your recipes and different ways in which you're making your beans. I posted some black bean tacos, which were excellent, and some 15 bean soup. So you have to just be creative. There's ways in which we can incorporate beans into our diets. Remember, they have high protein, high folate, which really helps your red blood cells, high fiber, high antioxidants, which is decreasing the inflammation in your body. It decreases your risk of heart disease, decreases your risk of cancer. They decrease your risk of diabetes. They're just good all around, and they help to save your gut. As Dr. Peterson, our resident GI doctor, would say, you got to save your gut. So, encouraging you for this last week of February to just try to get some more beans into your diet, okay? All right, well, that's it for tonight's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in with Talking with Dr. Donna. Remember, every Thursday at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, you have an appointment with the doctor. And so until next week, take care. Remember what I said about those masks, and know that if you have any questions, you can always ask Dr. Donna. Take care, and I'll see you next week. If you have a question for Dr. Donna, please do leave it on my page and I will be happy to answer the question for you.